You've said figures like Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates are not geniuses, but front people. Sam Altman didn't invent ChatGPT or LLMs. Steve Jobs didn't invent the iPhone. Do you think the government invented social media and AI?
So if you go back to the 1970s, the government had a huge credibility problem. And the Pentagon had put all this money into the internet as a surveillance tool, right? They wanted to promote the internet and computers as a way to control people. But the problem is, Americans had just experienced the Vietnam War. And there were the church committee hearings. And so Americans knew the CIA was this evil organization. So there was absolutely no trust in government. There was also the Watergate hearings. Before that, the assassinations of like Martin Luther King, JFK, RFK. Okay, so the government had absolutely no trust in government. So you needed a strategy of how to make people believe computers were safe and cute and innocuous. And the strategy they came up with is, let's just open source this to nerds, right? So if you're able to sell computers to the public, you go make the billions of dollars, right? So Steve Jobs partnered with Steve Wozniak, okay? And at that time, people don't know this, but Steve Wozniak was an employee of Hewlett-Packard, which is a defense contractor, okay? And so whatever he created actually belonged as an IP to HP, right? So Steve Wozniak creates this open source computer, and then he goes to his superiors at HP and says, look, I'm working for you guys. You guys are giving me the paycheck. Listen, this computer, I'm happy to give it to you guys And they told him, no, we don't want it. No, go sell yourself. It's yours. And that's kind of strange. And then he becomes a billionaire along with Bill Gates.
So HP gave Steve Wozniak the ability to sell Mac for free.
Okay, so Steve Wozniak was an employee of HP, and he was trained by HP, meaning his engineering skills came from that environment, and he had access to all of HP's technology, and that's how he was able to construct a personal computer from scratch, right? Because of the expertise provided to him from his employer. So technically, it should belong to HP.
Right.
But they came to an agreement where HP would not claim any IP over this computer, okay? So think of a university. If you're Stanford, right? Stanford owns some parts of Google because, you know, Larry Page and Sergey Brin developed Google at Stanford, right? Because you have access to all of Stanford's technology and expertise. But when Steve Wozniak designed the Apple computer, HP said, no, we don't want anything. We don't want to be involved in this. Right? And you have to ask yourself, why would they do that?
I think there's about 3,000 individual billionaires publicly documented by Forbes. Like 100 years ago, was that a thing where there were all these individual billionaires that had these come from nothing stories where they invented this great product and sold it? Or was that only a necessity after Vietnam?
I think this is a recent phenomenon. If you go back to the Gilded Age, these billionaires like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, what people don't recognize is that when they died, if you actually look at their net worth, how much they bestowed onto their children and grandchildren, it was only a fraction of their total net worth. So where did all that other money go, right? And they were actually spending a lot of their money on charity. So Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller were known for that. And what people don't recognize is that they had a problem, which is everyone assumed in America that these were self-made billionaires. This is the American dream, right? They were the paragons of the American dream. You come to America, you have nothing, but then suddenly, overnight, by working hard, you're a billionaire or a trillionaire, okay? And what they don't recognize is that These are just agents, representatives of the city of London. So they need to disguise the fact that they didn't actually have that much money, right? And the way they disguise that is by donating the money to charity and saying, "Oh, well, I gave it all away before I died."